A piercing police siren shattered the calm afternoon, echoing off the buildings like a warning shot. People on the sidewalk turned their heads, startled, while a few stepped back instinctively, unsure of what was happening. A patrol car screeched to a stop near the curb, the tires grinding against the concrete. The door slammed open, and an officer burst out with the energy of someone ready for war. Officer Drake, broad shoulders, heavy boots, quick temper, stormed toward a lone man standing beside a sleek black sports car. His hand hovered near his holster, his jaw clenched tight, and his voice cracked like a whip through the air. "You," he barked. "Step away from that car, right now." The man he yelled at didn't flinch. He simply turned his head, calm as the wind, hands still on the door handle. Manny Pacquiao looked more like a relaxed athlete after training than a criminal caught in the act. He blinked once, studying the officer's aggressive posture, then slowly raised his hands halfway. "I'm opening my car," Manny said, his voice low and balanced, steady enough to calm a storm, but apparently not enough to calm Officer Drake. "Don't lie," Drake snapped, taking heavy steps closer. "I know a thief when I see one." A few bystanders stopped walking, drawn by the tension rising like smoke. Two joggers paused, earbuds dangling. A couple coming out of a nearby cafe froze in place, their attention locked on the confrontation unfolding before them. Manny remained motionless, his expression unreadable. The wind lifted the edge of his training shirt, revealing the hint of muscle definition, evidence of years of discipline, but not something he ever flaunted. He looked at Drake without challenge, only confusion. "This is my car," Manny repeated calmly. Drake scoffed, circling him like a predator unsure whether to strike. "Oh really?" he said with a mocking smile. "Your car? Because guys like you usually drive something like this." He slapped the hood with his palm, leaving a dusty handprint on the gleaming surface. Manny's eyes lowered momentarily to the smudge, then rose back to the officer's face. Not anger. Just disappointment. "I came from training," Manny explained, gesturing slightly with his gym bag still slung over his shoulder. "The car is mine." Drake stepped even closer, nose almost touching Manny's shoulder. "Let me tell you something," he growled. "Criminals always have stories. Every one of them. And you're no different." Phones started recording. A teenager whispered to his friend, "Dude, that's Manny Pacquiao, isn't it?" His friend shrugged. "I think so. But the cop doesn't know." Drake, locked in his ego, either didn't hear them or didn't care. His entire world had shrunk into the narrow tunnel vision of confrontation. "You think standing here all calm makes you innocent," he continued. "I've seen guys like you. Smooth talkers. Pretending they didn't do anything." Manny's voice stayed steady, soft, unwavering. "I don't pretend. I speak the truth." Drake tightened his grip on Manny's wrist, yanking it down. "And I speak the law. Step back from the vehicle. Now." But Manny didn't resist. He didn't push. He didn't even take a defensive stance, something he could have done instinctively after years of training. Instead, he simply allowed the officer's hand to guide him away, his movements controlled, peaceful, almost respectful. The crowd stared in disbelief. They knew who he was. They recognized the humility, the patience, the quiet strength. But one man, the one holding the authority badge, saw nothing but the picture in his own mind, a thief caught in the act. The street, moments ago full of ordinary noise, now pulsed with tension. Everyone sensed the storm coming. But no one, not even the officer, was ready for what Manny would reveal next, and how it would turn the entire street upside down. It was a bright afternoon outside a downtown gym, the kind of day where sunlight bounced off glass windows and warmed the pavement until it almost shimmered. Fitness enthusiasts were spilling out of the building, some stretching their arms, others wiping sweat with towels, and a few chugging water bottles like they hadn't had a sip in hours. The sidewalk was alive with movement, chatter, and the low hum of the city going about its business. Amid this activity, Manny Pacquiao walked out quietly, blending in with the crowd as though he were just another athlete finishing another ordinary training session. His outfit was simple: breathable gray shirt, worn-in athletic shorts, and shoes dusted from hours of drills. He carried a slightly faded gym bag on one shoulder, one of those bags that had seen more sweat and discipline than most people see in a lifetime. He squinted toward the street where his black sports car stood, gleaming under the afternoon sun. He didn't rush, didn't swagger, didn't draw attention. Manny never needed to. His presence alone carried a natural gravity, one that didn't demand recognition, only respect. And even that, he never asked for. He simply moved with the effortless control of someone whose body understood strength and whose mind understood silence. He stepped off the curb, heading toward the car. People walked past him with little more than a glance, though a couple did double-take as if they recognized him but weren't quite sure. Manny reached into his pocket, pulled out his keys, and clicked the button. The car beeped softly and the headlights blinked. Normal. Peaceful. But calm rarely lasts long in a world where ego travels faster than reason. Down the street, a police patrol car turned sharply around the corner. The engine revved louder than necessary, as if the driver wanted to announce his presence. The car slid into a parking spot with theatrical urgency, tires scraping, brakes squealing like a warning siren for drama. Officer Drake stepped out. He wasn't the type of officer who blended into the background. He presented himself like a man auditioning for a role. Big gestures, stiff posture, chest pushed forward as if the badge alone made him 10 feet tall. His sunglasses reflected the entire street, and he moved with the confident arrogance of someone who believed power was a performance, not a responsibility. Some of the gym-goers paused mid-conversation, recognizing the officer. A few sighed. "Here we go," one murmured. "Drake again," another whispered. "Someone's day is about to get ruined." Drake scanned the street like a hawk looking for prey, not protection. His eyes caught Manny opening the car door. And instantly, something snapped into place inside his mind. Not logic, not reasoning, but assumption. He slammed the patrol car door shut and began striding toward Manny, each step louder, heavier, and more aggressive than necessary. His boots hit the pavement like he was marching into battle. The shift in energy was immediate. The breeze seemed to slow. Conversations quieted. People sensed conflict approaching before they even understood why. Manny hadn't noticed the officer yet. He placed his gym bag gently on the passenger seat and leaned in to adjust it. That's when Drake barked across the street. "Hey! You think you can just break into a car in broad daylight?" Heads turned. A couple of phones were raised. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Manny straightened slowly and looked over his shoulder, calm and steady. He didn't jump. He didn't panic. He didn't even look offended. Manny had been confronted by far more intense situations in the ring. No yelling cop could shake him. But still, confusion touched his eyes. "This is my car," Manny replied softly. Drake snorted. "Oh really? Your car?" He closed the distance in seconds, posture rigid with superiority. He circled Manny like a wolf trying to intimidate prey that didn't seem afraid enough. The problem was simple. Manny wasn't afraid at all. Drake jabbed a finger toward the vehicle. "Guys like you don't drive cars like this." It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Dismissive. Condescending. Accusatory. Manny's chest rose with a calm breath. He showed no anger, only patience. "This belongs to me," he repeated. Drake shook his head dramatically, making sure everyone saw the disbelief plastered across his face. "Oh, I've heard that line. Every thief says the same thing. It's my car. I was just borrowing it. My cousin gave it to me." He leaned closer. "Spare me the story." A couple of onlookers exchanged uneasy glances. They recognized Manny now, his posture, his tone, his humility. But Drake didn't. Or refused to. The officer tapped the hood with his knuckles. "Let me guess, this key magically fits, right?" Manny didn't raise his voice. "Officer, listen." "No." "You listen," Drake snapped, cutting him off. "Step away from the vehicle." The gym doors swung again as more people came out, instantly sensing something escalating. The atmosphere changed, sharp, tense, electric. It wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. It was a collision between ego and calm, between assumption and identity, between a man who yelled to assert power, and a man who didn't need to raise his voice to show it. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen someone accused before they were even allowed to speak? Because that's exactly where this story begins to twist. Officer Drake moved so fast that several bystanders flinched. His hand shot forward, clamping around Manny's wrist with far more force than necessary. Without warning, he yanked Manny backward and slammed him against the car door. The metallic thud echoed across the street, turning heads instantly. "Hands where I can see them," Drake barked, breath hot with aggression. Manny raised both hands quietly, palms open. His eyes didn't harden. His voice didn't rise. His posture didn't shift into defense mode, even though his instincts, finely sharpened from years of combat, could have countered Drake effortlessly. Instead, he let the officer push him, letting patience do the work his strength easily could have. "Officer, please, this vehicle belongs to me." Drake gave a loud, mocking laugh. "Oh yeah, and I'm the president. Don't test me, tough guy." A wave of murmurs traveled through the growing crowd. People stopped mid-step. A couple holding smoothies paused, wide-eyed. Two teenagers pressed record on their phones, whispering to each other while the camera stayed locked on Manny. "That's Manny Pacquiao, isn't it?" "Dude, yes. Why is the cop treating him like that?" But Drake wasn't listening to anyone. He was fueled by something stronger than reason, ego. His chest rose and fell like a man gearing up for battle, except the only fight was one he created himself. He shoved Manny harder, pressing him against the car as if he were restraining a dangerous criminal rather than a calm athlete. "I'm not going to repeat myself," Drake snarled. "Don't move." Manny didn't resist. Balance, breathing, patience. These weren't just skills. They were a way of living, one he had mastered. Drake's eyes zeroed in on the keys loosely hanging from Manny's fingers. With another aggressive jerk, he snatched them away. "These belong to the owner of the car," he said, waving the keys smugly. "Which is clearly not you." He flipped the key tag around and read it. His lips curled into a dramatic smirk. "Registered to Manny Pacquiao. That's cute." He held the keys up like evidence at a trial. "You stole the keys and the name? Seriously? That's dedication." The crowd gasped in unison. A woman covered her mouth. A man shook his head. Another whispered, "This is going to end badly for the officer." But Manny didn't say a word. He turned his head slightly to the side, enough to meet Drake's eyes without hostility, without fear. "Sometimes eyes see," Manny said quietly, "but minds don't." The sentence hung in the air like slow-falling dust, soft, but impossible to ignore. Drake scoffed and tightened his grip on Manny's wrist, mistaking calm for guilt. "Oh, we're done with your poetic lines. You're going to jail." He began reaching for his handcuffs. At that moment, the crowd shifted, from observers to witnesses. People stepped closer, not to interfere, but because something felt off. The imbalance was too obvious, the aggression too one-sided. Manny, still pinned to the car door, looked like a teacher being scolded by a student who had no idea who he was confronting. A young man from the gym jogged toward the scene, hands raised. "Officer! Wait! Back up!" Drake shouted, one hand hovering over his taser. "Unless you want to be next." The young man froze, eyes darting between Manny and the officer. "He didn't do anything," he insisted. "That's his car." "Oh, so now you're defending your buddy?" Drake snapped. "What is he, your coach? Your hero? Save it. I know a liar when I hear one." Another gym member chimed in, voice shaky. "Officer, he's not lying." Drake turned sharply, barking, "All of you, back away!" The crowd recoiled but didn't leave. The tension had turned into something else, anger, disbelief, discomfort. People weren't just watching anymore. They were witnessing injustice unfolding in real time. Manny's voice finally rose, but only slightly, steady and firm. "Officer Drake," he said, "you're making a mistake." "Oh, I'll decide that," Drake shot back. He yanked Manny's arm again, pushing his face closer to the hood. "You think calm talking is going to fool me? I've been on the force for 12 years. I've seen every trick." Manny stayed still, breathing through the heat of the moment with the control of a man far stronger than the one holding him down. "I'm not trying to fool you," Manny said. "I'm trying to tell you the truth." Drake clicked open the handcuffs with dramatic flair. "The truth?" The truth is you're under arrest for attempted auto theft." A collective gasp tore through the street. "But officer," someone shouted. Drake cut them off. "No more interruptions. This man is Manny Pacquiao," a teenager yelled, unable to hold it in any longer. Drake paused mid-sentence, annoyed, not convinced. Manny didn't use the moment to escape or overpower him. He didn't roll, flip, counter, or break free. Instead, he stood like a pillar, every inch of him radiating discipline, not defiance. That's what shook people the most. Drake had the authority, but Manny had the presence. A kind that didn't need permission to be respected. But Drake wasn't done. Not even close. And with the handcuffs inches from Manny's wrists, the disrespect had reached its peak. Yet the truth was only seconds away from detonating. The street went quiet, so quiet that even the hum of passing cars faded into the background. All eyes were on Officer Drake and the man he had pinned against the sleek black sports car. Manny Pacquiao didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't even raise his voice. He simply stood there, posture relaxed, breathing even, as if none of this chaos truly touched him. That calmness, it made people uneasy. It was the kind of calm that comes from years of discipline. The kind of calm that belongs to someone who has stood inside cages, arenas, and rings where pressure is 1,000 times heavier than a single officer's arrogance. But Officer Drake, caught in his own storm of ego, saw none of it. A few steps away, a young trainer from the gym hesitated before speaking. He had watched Manny train many times before, in silence and awe. Now he gathered the courage to step forward. "Sir, do you even know who that is?" the trainer called out, voice trembling slightly. Drake didn't even bother turning fully. He scoffed, chin raised, sunglasses sliding halfway down his nose as he tightened his grip on Manny's wrist. "A criminal. A liar. A car thief pretending to be calm," Drake barked. "Don't defend him unless you want to get involved." The trainer swallowed hard. "No, officer. You're making a mistake." Drake laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that bounced off the nearby storefront windows. "Oh really? And what kind of mistake am I making? Educate me, please." The trainer glanced at Manny, who gave him the smallest nod, as if telling him it was okay to speak. "He's not a criminal," the trainer said slowly. "He's Manny Pacquiao, one of the top-ranked state UFC fighters." The moment the name left the trainer's mouth, something rippled through the crowd: recognition, disbelief, shock. People murmured, leaned closer, lifted their phones higher, zooming in on Manny's face. A woman whispered, "Wait, that Manny Pacquiao?" Another man replied, "Look at his stance. Damn, that is him." Someone else added, "Why is a cop treating him like that?" Officer Drake went still. For half a second. Just long enough for doubt to flicker across his face, like a shadow passing over his confidence. But then his ego rushed in and smothered that flicker immediately. Drake straightened up, smirk returning. "Oh please," he said. "Manny Pacquiao is a big-time fighter. A celebrity. You think that guy," he jerked Manny's shoulder, "is him? Don't insult my intelligence." The trainer insisted, "Look at him. Look closely." Drake rolled his eyes like a teenager asked to do chores. He tugged Manny by the arm to face him directly. For the first time, he really looked. The build. The calmness. The unmistakable sharpness in Manny's gaze. He recognized something, but he didn't want to admit it. "Even if you were Manny Pacquiao," Drake growled, "nobody is above the law. Not fighters. Not celebrities. Not anyone." Manny spoke softly. "I never said I was above the law. I said this is my car." Those words were simple, but they carried weight. They carried dignity. And people felt it. The crowd murmured louder now, pushing closer, forming a half-circle around the scene. One bystander shouted, "Come on, officer, check Google if you don't believe it." Another added, "You're embarrassing yourself." A third recorded while saying, "This is gonna blow up online." Drake ignored them all. He tightened the handcuffs instead, overcompensating, clinging to his narrative. "You think being calm will save you?" Drake hissed. "You think being famous makes you untouchable?" Manny lowered his head slightly, not in shame, but in patience. "I don't need saving," he said. "Truth doesn't need muscle." The trainer stepped closer. "Officer, just verify his identity, please, before this gets worse." Drake snapped, "Back off," making several people jump. But Manny, still calm. His breathing never changed. His pulse never spiked. His voice stayed steady, almost gentle. The quiet strength was unsettling to Drake. He didn't understand it. Didn't know how to handle someone who refused to break under his pressure. A moment later, another voice rose from the crowd. Older, firm, respectful. "I've seen him fight," an elderly man said. "That's Manny Pacquiao. The way he stands, the way he talks, there's no doubt." Drake's jaw tightened. The pressure was closing in. Crowd murmurs, cameras recording, whispers spreading. But he doubled down instead of backing off. "Doesn't matter who he is," Drake declared loudly, as if performing for an invisible audience. "If he touched this car, he's guilty." "He owns the car," someone yelled back. Drake ignored them and stepped even closer to Manny, face inches away. "You better hope your little fan club is right," he gritted out, "because impersonation is another charge." Manny looked him in the eyes, peaceful, yet unbreakable. "Officer," he said, "sometimes a loud man mistakes noise for authority. But silence can be stronger." That sentence landed like a punch, clean, controlled, devastating. The crowd reacted instantly. "Oh, he got you there. Bro, just check his ID." But Drake kept pretending, kept pushing, kept drowning in his own pride. And the suspense thickened in the air. Because the truth was about to hit him harder than any punch Manny Pacquiao had ever thrown. The tension on the street reached its peak. Phones were raised. Bystanders whispered, argued, recorded every second. Officer Drake stood there, holding Manny in cuffs, still pretending he had everything under control, even though his confidence was starting to crack like thin glass. And then, a deep engine roar cut through the chaos. A black SUV screeched to a halt right at the curb, tires grinding loudly against the pavement. All eyes snapped toward it. The doors flew open, and two state officials jumped out, moving with the urgency of people who were severely late. "Manny!" one of them shouted. "Sir, we've been calling you. Your fighter evaluation is in 10 minutes. The crowd collectively gasped. Manny stayed perfectly still. But Officer Drake? His grip loosened instantly. He blinked. Once. Twice. His jaw fell open slightly, as if his mind had suddenly unplugged. Fighter. Drake stuttered. "What fighter?" The officials approached, confused and irritated. Their expressions darkened when they saw the cuffs on Manny's wrists, the cop's aggressive posture, and the growing crowd surrounding them. One of the officials stepped forward sharply. "What's the meaning of this?" he demanded. Drake swallowed hard. He was trying to steal this car." The official stared at him like he'd just spoken another language. "Steal his own car?" Drake's lips parted, but no words came out. The official turned to Manny, voice respectful. "Sir, are you all right?" Manny nodded politely. "Yes. Just a misunderstanding." The official exhaled long and slow before turning back to Drake, eyes full of disbelief. "You don't recognize him?" the official asked. Drake shook his head, panic beginning to flicker across his face. The other official stepped closer, voice sharper. "He's the state supreme UFC fighter. The man who trains law enforcement teams across the region. The fighter your department is supposed to respect and learn from." A wave of shock tore through the crowd like lightning. People shouted, "Bro, you arrested him? You messed up big time." "No way, he trains the police." Some laughed in disbelief. Others shook their heads, disgusted. A few simply stared, recording everything for the internet. Officer Drake's face drained of all color. Sweat formed on his forehead. His posture, once stiff and towering, deflated inch by inch. "Manny Pacquiao," he muttered, almost choking on the words. "That Manny Pacquiao?" The official nodded sharply. "Yes. The one who supervises fighter discipline. The one invited to the governor's security summit. The one your chief personally requested to train your unit last month." The crowd exploded again. Cheers, shocked laughter, murmurs. Drake stumbled back a step, suddenly aware of every phone pointed at him. His arrogance collapsed. His ego shriveled. His entire world tilted sideways. He fumbled with the handcuffs, hands shaking. "Sir, I didn't know," Drake stammered. "I swear, I didn't know." Manny didn't pull away. He simply watched, silent, composed, letting the scene play out naturally. The official raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know because you didn't listen. You judged him the second you saw him." The words landed like a hammer. Drake's knees weakened. He swallowed hard, looking like he wanted to vanish into thin air. Finally, he managed, "Sir, if I had known—" Manny cut him off with calm clarity. "That's the problem," he said softly. The street went dead silent again. Manny continued, voice steady but powerful. "You shouldn't respect someone after learning who they are. You should respect people first, because they are people." Drake's eyes glistened with embarrassment. He lowered his head. For the first time, he looked small, like a man who finally understood he had built his pride on sand. Manny lifted his wrist slightly. "May I have the keys to my car?" he asked. Drake hurriedly handed them back, nearly dropping them in the process. He unlocked the cuffs with trembling fingers. I'm so sorry," Drake whispered. "I don't know what to say." Manny looked at him, not with anger, not with revenge, but with something deeper. "Next time," Manny said, "listen before you accuse." The crowd applauded, some loudly, some respectfully. The officials stood beside Manny, ready to escort him to the SUV for his evaluation. One of them asked quietly, "Manny, do you want to file a report against him?" Manny paused. He looked at Drake, broken, humbled, ashamed. Then he looked at the crowd, hopeful, moved, watching. And the question hung in the air. Should he forgive him, or report him? Officer Drake stood frozen, sunglasses now trembling in his hands. Moments ago, his chest was high, his voice loud, his authority absolute. Now, he barely looked like the same officer. His arrogance had drained out of him like water through cracked glass. I'm sorry," Drake whispered. His voice wasn't aggressive anymore, just human. "I made a mistake. A big one." The crowd lowered their phones slightly, sensing the shift. This was no longer a fight. This was accountability. Manny stepped closer, not in anger, not to intimidate, but with the calm poise of someone who had spent a lifetime mastering discipline. "You made one mistake," Manny said softly. "But you can correct many." Drake swallowed hard and nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Manny slowly lifted his arm, the same arm the officer had shoved and held moments before, and gently removed Drake's leftover grip. Not with force. Not with a jerk. Just controlled ease. A fighter's touch guided by respect. The crowd's breath caught. Even the officials watched silently, impressed by Manny's restraint. Drake's lips trembled. You could have resisted. You could have fought back. You could have." Manny shook his head. "If I fought every time someone disrespected me," he said calmly, "I wouldn't be a fighter. I would just be another man with anger problems." The street absorbed his words. Manny continued, voice steady but heavy with meaning. "Strength isn't in the fists. It's in the choices you make before using them." Drake blinked rapidly, the guilt weighing him down. "I acted on temper," Drake admitted. "I didn't observe. I didn't listen. I just assumed." "And that assumption," Manny finished, "almost ruined more than just your day." The air felt thick with truth. The officials exchanged glances, respectfully waiting for Manny's decision. The crowd murmured softly, trying to guess whether he would forgive or destroy the officer's career. Manny looked at Drake long and hard. "Officer," he said, "your job isn't just to enforce the law. It's to protect people. All people. Even the ones who don't look like they belong in expensive cars." Drake nodded, shame fully overtaking him. "I understand. I do. And I'll accept whatever comes next." Manny turned slightly toward the officials. But before speaking, he paused. The crowd leaned in. Phones rose again. Every second felt like a spark waiting to ignite fireworks. Manny looked back at Drake. "You're lucky," he said, a faint trace of gentleness in his tone. "Not because you caught me, but because today was just a lesson." Drake exhaled shakily. "Sir, thank you. I won't forget this." Manny stepped back, picking up his gym bag from the hood of the car. The same hood he had been slammed against minutes earlier. He opened his car door slowly, letting the world see that he wasn't rushing to escape or hide. He was simply moving forward. Before sitting inside, he turned toward Drake one last time. "Next time," Manny said, voice firm but calm, "use your training before your temper." The words hit harder than any punch. Drake nodded deeply, almost like a bow of respect. A small crack of humility had finally broken through his pride. The officials approached Manny's car. "Sir, we'll escort you to the evaluation," one of them said. Manny nodded and took a calm breath. He got into his car and started the engine. Smooth, controlled, unbothered. No threats. No shouting. No revenge. Just a man setting an example. As Manny pulled out of the parking spot, the crowd parted, silently acknowledging what they had just witnessed. Some murmured, "That's real strength." Others whispered, "That officer will never forget this." And someone near the back said, "He could have destroyed him, but he chose to teach instead." Manny drove off, not to escape the moment, but to move on from it. Behind him, Officer Drake stood still. Not as the arrogant cop who barked orders, but as a man who finally learned that respect is part of the uniform. And the lesson Manny left behind? Stronger than any punch, louder than any siren, and unforgettable for everyone who saw it. The street slowly returned to life as Manny's car disappeared around the corner, but the air felt different. Heavier, thoughtful, charged with a lesson that everyone felt in their chest. People lowered their phones. Conversations quieted. Even the officials stood silently for a few seconds, letting the weight of what happened settle. Officer Drake remained frozen on the sidewalk, still holding his sunglasses, still staring at the empty road. He had walked into that moment with ego, and walked out with a new understanding of what real strength looked like. But Manny, he didn't wait for applause. He didn't soak in the attention. He didn't turn around for validation. He simply left. And that, ironically, made his presence even louder. Moments like this don't need long speeches. They don't need dramatic punches. They don't need someone to win. They need clarity. Because what happened on that street wasn't just about a cop making a mistake. It was about a truth that the world forgets over and over again. Respect shouldn't depend on appearances. Too many people judge before listening. Too many react before thinking. Too many see a stranger and assume the worst. But Manny showed the opposite. He showed what it means to stay calm when others lose control. To stay composed when others raise their voices. To stay respectful even when respect isn't given back. Not every fighter shouts. Not every hero demands recognition. Not every calm person is weak. The strongest people are often the quiet ones. The ones who don't need to throw a punch to win. The ones who don't let ego guide their decisions. The ones who carry power with humility, not pride. And that day, Manny proved something bigger than titles, bigger than belts, bigger than fame. Real strength is quiet. Real dignity doesn't scream. Real respect is universal. Officer Drake learned it the hard way. The crowd witnessed it firsthand. And Manny lived it naturally, without trying to impress anyone. The lesson he left behind echoed long after his car vanished. If you act with arrogance, you lose respect. If you act with humility, you earn it. Not because you're famous. Not because you're powerful. But because you understand that every person deserves to be treated like a human being. That is the kind of strength the world needs more of. Not fists. Not shouting. Not uniforms. Just simple, human respect. As the street slowly returned to normal, people kept replaying the moment in their minds. Some walked away shaking their heads, amazed. Some smiled quietly, reminded that heroes still exist. And some just whispered to themselves, "Humility, that's the real power." And now, to the person reading this right now, yes, you. If you believe that humility is stronger than ego. If you believe that calmness beats arrogance. If you believe that respect should be given to everyone, not just the powerful, then type respect in the comments. Let the world see that real strength still matters. And before you scroll, tell me, where are you watching from?